Hi, my name's Melissa. I am 35, turning 36 in a week. And I am attempting to do a vlog for my journey for my miracle. My husband and I will be going through an IVF treatment in the next couple of weeks. I'm fortunate to live in the province of Ontario, and one of the cool things that's happened this year is the government is now funding the IVF program. So we called in to our clinic at the hospital. We're out of London, and we let them know where we were at, and they told us that we're on the list. So our date for the IVF procedure is April 7th, 8th, or 9th. It just totally depends on our cycle. I start my first dose of Lupron tomorrow, so literally is the very first step. I've gone through several other different types of treatment before at another clinic for IUI, for the IUI program. We have done a total of 8 at the clinic, 1 at the hospital, and I know through that process the hormones are terrible and the side effects are insane. The weight gain is something that happens to everybody, and there's actually some out of mind experiences. And I have to say, my husband is an absolute saint because he has managed to put up with me for the last 4 years while we've been going through this. And he is willing to stick with me while we go through this really big process. So I think the most intimidating factor for me is going to be the injections. So I will start those tomorrow. The needles on this are considerably bigger than the ones that I was doing before with the Puregon, so we'll see. So apparently Lupron is an estrogen suppressant, so side effects will be very similar, in fact, to menopause. So I'm assuming hot flashes and headaches. Really hoping for me to skip weight gain on this one. I'm going to have to try a few things to see if I can avoid that, but I will definitely talk about that if that is the case. But it's a whole new process. So as I mentioned before, we've been trying for the last 4 years for a baby. We talked about it a lot before we even got married, that having a family was something that was incredibly important to us. So right before we got married, I wanted to ensure that as soon as everything was done and as soon as we were back, that we could start right away. So we've really had a big focus on this. And it's probably one of the hardest things to do on its own, let alone doing it at the same time that you are newly married. So learning how to live with that person, learning how to integrate them as part of your life, and then on top of all that, adding hormones and turning into a crazy person that even he doesn't even recognize. So he's a saint, and it's a good thing he's a stubborn man because he has been stubborn enough to stick it out with me, in which case I love him incredibly. So that has been our journey so far. If I could impart anything, ask a lot of questions, go into your first meetings prepared, especially if you haven't been into a clinic before and you're thinking about discussing it with your family physician to get you switched over. If you're over the age of 30, don't hesitate. Be pushy, be adamant that it's something that you want to do. With my doctor, I just told her right off the hop, hey, we've been already trying for a year, we're getting married, we want to start right away, we're getting up there in age. She was very quick to transfer us over, and she was very clear to say that under normal circumstances, she would insist on making sure that it would be at least a year before she would typically transfer a couple over. So, good physician for that one. And yeah, so we were at a fertility clinic. We did a total of 8 IUIs, never got pregnant after any of them. And I think at the end of all that, I needed to have a mental break. So I took about a year off. And in that year off, we did manage to get pregnant, but it was a chemical pregnancy. And that only lasted to, I think they said about 5.5 weeks. So early enough along to get a positive pregnancy test and be really excited about it. And then the devastation of watching the hormones drop off and then to actually miscarry. We tried to do another IUI right after and ended up with a uterine infection. That was enough for me at that stage. So ended up going back to the clinic, asking if there was anything else that we could do. And I was just insisting that I absolutely needed to have an answer. Is it me? Is it our situation? Is there any other test that I can run that will help me just to either mentally digest that I cannot have a baby, or is there still hope, and what else is there? And at that time, IVF, they were still talking about putting it into law in Ontario, but it hadn't actually happened yet. So did the laparoscopy. I ended up coming back that I had stage 2 endometriosis. He was able to take care of all that, and according to that doctor, I was good to go. But he also had suggested that I sought a second opinion, and that brought me to the hospital in London. They've been wonderful there. We did one more IUI with them with injections. We did the monitoring, and after that, they were very, very good at explaining why, if you're trying to do IUIs, why, if you do anything beyond 2 or 3, why it's not effective. And statistically, it just isn't effective. So here we are. We got the Ontario government passed the IVF program, that it's fully funded, and we are one of the first ones to go through the process. Talked with another lady who is at the clinic, and her date is in 8 to 12 months. I called in, told them that we wanted to do it, and we got in 6 weeks. So I'm not sure how they determine who gets into the program, but I'm just lucky, and I can't wait to get started. The only thing that I can't, or that I'm happy just to wait on, is the side effects. So here goes nothing. Ultimately, I'm doing these videos for myself, but if there is somebody that's watching, if you have questions for what we've gone through, if I can help you in any way, I'm gonna try. So bear with me, and here's hoping for the best. I definitely want to see a positive pregnancy test, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I'm trying to stay positive, and I think that really is the only way to do it. So here goes nothing. Thank you very much for listening, and I will be back in touch in the next couple of days just to let you know how Lupron's going. Thank you. We'll talk soon.